The book of Revelation says, "The spirit of prophecy is the testimony of Jesus Christ." This is at the very heart of FirstAmendmentRadio.com. In that spirit, we have created the Prophecy Reality News app for all of your mobile devices, streaming First Amendment Radio 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Available for your Apple, Android device, and smartphone, absolutely free. Get the Prophecy Reality News app installed today, so you can listen to First Amendment Radio wherever you are. The Prophecy Reality News app. Get it now.
My guest today is a former attorney. Turned in his bar card some years ago and said to the Texas bar, "I'm not going to participate in your church anymore." Harmon Taylor, welcome.
Thanks. Great to be here. How are things where you are?
Sunny, warm. You know, it's that February thaw.
There you go.
So it will confuse all of the plants out there. The trees will start budding. Yeah, you know, all that stuff.
Yeah, we get the same here.
So, been a day or two. Well, last time you were on with you and
with Larry.
Kraft took my show. And since then, well, a bunch of things have happened.
Yeah, there too, huh?
Yes. I guess we might as well start off with this Oregon situation and, you know, the frustration felt by all the folks out there, the federales coming in, the agencies. I mean, they've got the videos up there of them planning, and they're in Denver where this radio station is booming a signal into the federal center there at Western headquarters for BLM, where they sat in the back room, smoke-filled room, plotting their next takeover of the, well, supposed private property. We've got to expand our fiefdoms here, Harmon.
Well, there is that perspective, and of course the theory that they've used for that in the past has been eminent domain. And
or like they did out there in Oregon, a bunch of the ranchers, and this is some years ago, that they said, "Oh, we'll just flood them out," and so they stopped the flow of the water out of the lakes there and flooded a bunch of them out, and said, "Well, too bad, so sad. You shouldn't have built your farm or your headquarters, your house, and your barns and your corrals and everything there. You just shouldn't have done that because, well, we're evil." You should have known we were evil.
Fundamentally, we should have. We've trusted this system a lot longer than we should have, and it's the problem the Indians had.
Well, let's see. White man has broken every treaty he signed, didn't he?
I don't know of very many that have survived as written. It's not an area I've studied intensively, but the games seem to change rather regularly in that area.
But, this whole deal of the war on the West, the federal government was never, ever supposed to own the land.
There's land that the federal system, there's land that the national system can own.
Yeah, but they weren't supposed to own 40%, 80%, 90% of a state.
Yeah. The generic plan was to turn that over eventually.
Yes.
Louisiana Purchase, for example, all of that was done in the name of the national system, but fundamentally in trust. And the technical thing that happens when you buy land from that particular transaction is that the title merges, because the legal title and the beneficiary are ultimately the same one on an individual basis. It's kind of an unknown beneficiary until it's bought. But with the owning in trust and then the buying of whoever it is that ultimately gets it, the generic theory is that the title, legal title and equitable title, merge. And in that way, the homesteader, the person buying it, ends up with full title. Be simple.
Be simple. Hello to you. Stay tuned. We'll be right back here on the American Freedom Network.
Rehabilitation and Nursing Center of the Rockies reminds everyone the chance.
Hear it first on FirstAmendmentRadio.com and FirstAmendmentRadio.net.
Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. That's crosstheborder.org.
I know you all want answers, and believe me, so do I, and I'll do my best to get them.
Despite Nicolas Cage's promise to do his best to get left behind rapture answers for us, don't hold your breath. Not everyone believes Left Behind is true prophecy. Some may even regard as conspiratorial the mainstream re-release of the Left Behind movie with actor Nicolas Cage portraying the main character as an attempt to further reinforce in the minds of all this perception of false prophecy, in order to condition the masses for the play about to begin. If you want true Bible prophecy answers, get the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. The author exposes the Latin rapture origin, the 7-year tribulation deception, true Bible revelation of Daniel's 70 weeks, the abomination of desolation, the restrainer, America in the Revelation, the image of the beast and the mark of the beast, and the truth about God's chosen people, and so much more about Bible prophecy. This book will shatter the Left Behind paradigm of future events. Get the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. That's crosstheborder.org. You're listening to FirstAmendmentRadio.com worldwide. Freedom is never free. We need your support today at FirstAmendmentRadio.com.
This is decades, yes.
Yes. That, there's a few wins out there, but by and large, the beast has just run roughshod and said, well, we're going to expand our military base here. We're going to expand our wildlife refuge, and oh, by the way, then we need another buffer zone around it all, and then we're going to place plaques at Grand Canyon and Yosemite and Yellowstone, and that says, part of the World Heritage Biosphere Project of the United Nations.
Yeah, I haven't seen any of those except in pictures. You probably have seen some. You're a little closer to some of those areas. But yeah, it's basically a statement of claim of ownership in the name of the UN.
Really?
That's what it amounts to. I'm satisfied with the things going on right now, that it's a UN interest being protected, not a United States interest. I think there's all kinds of things being transferred over to the UN at the hands of our elected officials, of course, unbeknownst to us, so that they can set up the New World Order, whether that's what the people want or not. Well, and to do that, there's got to be resources and land and things like that.
But it's in their best interest, Harmon. Yes.
The The politician's best interest?
No, the people. No.
Yeah, you know, some people still buy the communist line. And so...
Well, look, a communist won New Hampshire yesterday.
Yeah. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
He openly calls himself a social democrat. And he heads out the other candidate there. And it's okay that it remain nameless. I think the more the name is repeated, the more subtle marketing there is. So just don't mention the name, and there's no marketing.
Yeah, the more the name is repeated, the more my stomach turns.
Yeah.
I may have to walk away from the radio here.
yours and millions of people from coast to coast.
So, I mean, what kind of country system thing that, I mean, the public pool system has done their job so marvelously well. I mean,
very well.
Those teachers, you guys there that are studying to be teachers there in Greeley at the college, that you know, you're learning your trade very well to turn out good, mindless socialist, you know, sheeple.
Yeah, buying into the current political thing is the objective of education right now. There's a elementary school that not too far from a spot in Dallas I frequent. I'm there enough to interact from time to time with the people there, and the faculty and staff are absolutely paranoid. And so, what are they teaching the kids? Be paranoid.
Really?
Yep. I mean, that's the conduct of everyone out there. How can the kids not learn paranoia when that's the environment in which all the adults there live? Well, you know, in their work environment. How can the kids learn anything but that? So they buy into all the lies about what's happened with these national disasters. And they say, oh, look at all this bad stuff happening to the kids. Okay, well, there you are.
You mean as far as the school shootings and et cetera?
Yeah, exactly. School shootings, national scale, multi-homicide events.
Right.
Multiple simultaneous homicide events. And rather than studying into how can all of this be true, they accept the party line without reflecting on it at all and get terrified, and then that's the perspective they pass on to the kids. Be terrified, be in fear, be paranoid.
Dial 911 and die.
Yeah, don't worry about defending yourself. Don't even think about that. No, that's bad.
But, well, at least Texas has passed they passed open carry law.
They did. You been keeping up with that?
Tell us more.
I haven't seen it in practice yet, but the scuttlebutt is that there will be faculty in the various ranges of schools. Texas will have pre-kindergarten kinds of things, and then K to 5 for elementary school, and something about middle school, which may be 6 to 8, and then high school 9 to 12. So in those gradations, we have different faculty, different facilities, all that. I don't know if that's a national plan or just how Texas does it right now. But faculty in each one of those different facilities now have an option to carry.
Yes.
Kind of an interesting development, and I don't know how many other states are that direction. I don't know where Texas rates in the sequence of states going that direction. I don't think New York ever will, for example.
No, but if we want to solve any kind of school shootings, just look at Israel. Why don't the the, quote, terrorists, unquote, attack the schools in Israel? Because the teachers are armed to the teeth and they'll die if they do.
That's fundamentally it. And the system in Israel requires, I think, at least 1 year, you may know, at least 1 year of military training, everybody.
Yes.
So they understand, and they grow up in the environment where they are constantly at war. And they teach that through the military service, and everyone's a soldier, and they know it. It's just part of the culture. Everyone there is a soldier. We don't have that perspective here. I don't know that that's necessarily bad. I don't know.
Well, but it's in the Constitution. I mean, here's this organization called the militia.
Amen.
That's mentioned. I mean, it's mentioned 4 times, and so that should be something that you sit around and you look at and you go, well, maybe this is an important thing. Maybe that's an important thing we ought to look at.
We ought to look at it.
Because if the militia, it's not about going out and running through the woods with your camo and your rifle and stuff. That's a little bit of it, but most of it would be, let's see, there's a forest fire. We got to go take care of this. There's a flood. We got to go take care of this. Oh, here's our meeting, and here's some legislation the fools in D.C. are trying to put forward. Maybe we better take a closer look at this.
Yeah.
But anyway, we digress.
But only a little bit.
Okay, the Oregon standoff.
The land issue. We started with the Louisiana Purchase concept, and the land titling in those purchasers is fee simple. It's very difficult, for example, to have eminent domain or even a property tax when the land is owned in fee simple.
Yes.
It has to be owned in a mechanism by which a financial claim can be made. And when the financial claim is not paid, remove the party who's there, who has the obligation to pay. And, of course, we can beat around the bush and make a long, extended study out of it, and at some point we need to do that. But to bottom line it, what happens there is that the land is no longer owned in fee simple, but rather owned in trust. And it's because the land is owned in trust that we're seeing all this stuff happening to the land. You remember the pink house in Connecticut? I'm trying to remember the location and the name of that
the
development. Keyhole? Do what?
Keyhole?
That doesn't ring the right bell yet, but the pink house is still there. The thing that City of New London set up, where they basically eminent domain, it was several years ago.
Yeah, that was a keyhole decision.
Well, the keyhole decision, okay. That development, of course, once they got in all the policies, went belly up. They set the policy of allowing eminent domain and taking all those people's property. They got paid, sort of, but it wasn't eminent domain to build a road. Yeah,
or a canal, or etc. It was an eminent domain to allow a insurance company, if I remember right, to build a whole huge new complex.
Yep, and it was very commercial. It had nothing to do really with government. It's very commercial. Right. And that can't happen. There's no forced sale there. We're told it's a forced sale. We're told it's eminent domain, but it's really not that. We've pre-offered the property for that transaction. We just don't realize how we did it. And this is the problem with all this land going over to the UN via this agency, that agency, some other agency. The land that we had in the beginning in the way of ownership changed. The ownership changed. The ownership mechanism changed. And because of that, and some other shenanigans, it's not just the ownership change. There's shenanigans on the backside, too. Very quiet. Oh, don't tell the people that. They won't go for it. And we won't be reelected because we're giving all their land away. But the mechanism for that is pretty basic. We get down to what has happened with ownership of the land, then we see we've been seduced into putting it into trust with the benefit of these agencies and these systems that we call government. And then they show up and say, well, we think the land can be used better doing this other thing, and that's City of New London. And that recollection, taking of the property program. And, that's happened everywhere. The new Cowboy Stadium in Arlington, Texas, is built on eminent domain acquired land.
Really?
Yeah, really. That was
a private.
Fundamentally
a privately owned business.
Yep.
That rakes in, billions for the whole industry. Turned to government and said, well, condemn all this land so we can build our new church so we can worship our idols here every weekend.
Fundamentally it. Let's build a new church building. Let's worship the Greek and Roman style little gods gods.
Yes.
We call athletes. Yeah, it was eminent domain by which they got that land to build that stadium.
So, how did we, as a collective, how did we and the folks out in Oregon split the title to the land? We'll get to that after the break. Stay tuned here on the American Freedom Network.
You're listening to FirstAmendmentRadio.com worldwide. Freedom is never free. We need your support today at FirstAmendmentRadio.com.
Since the beginning of time, kings have sought it, nations have fought for it. It has been traded, it has been borrowed, it has been purchased, it has been stolen. There's a reason for it. To secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and to our posterity, invest with the security of gold and silver. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188 or visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net. Listen to Financial Survival with your host Melody Cedarstrom right here on FirstAmendmentRadio.com at 4 p.m. Eastern or 1 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net or call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free 1-800-375-4188. Hear it first on FirstAmendmentRadio.com and FirstAmendmentRadio.net.
7-254-7524. Question, comment? You got a former attorney online here that's doing battle with the beast every day, helping people out. You can email Harmon at first letters of his first book, We the Posterity, Voluntary Bondage, WTPVB at earthlink.net, WTPVB at earthlink.net. So how did we you own the land in fee simple.
Right.
And basically the government held it in trust until somebody came forward and said, I'm claiming this 80 acres, 160 acres, whatever. I'm putting a claim on this. Here's the money and silver, and they turn around, they write up a land patent, which is signed by the president, and there they go.
That land patent is nice, not essential, but for that original purchase, that's exactly what happened. And so there it is, fee simple. So how did it get changed? Very cleverly and very subtly. It's in the documents. It's in the papers that are signed. We just don't know what the papers are saying.
Okay.
In the papers that are signed, we find such things as we agree to pay the school district such and such for property tax.
And the hospital district, and the fire district, and the water district, and the sewer district, and the wastewater district, and the...
Yes.
And the...
Correct, exactly. So how do they get a benefit out of the land transaction? Well, of course, the marketing is, oh, that's property tax. You got to pay property tax. Okay, well, most of us, being good Prussians, say, oh, okay, it's a tax. Yeah, we can't get through life without taxes, so we agree to pay the tax. But we don't realize that that's exactly what we're doing, is agreeing to pay it. It's exactly what we're doing.
Okay.
So what's the mechanism then by which that happens? How do they get a stake in the land itself? How is it? By what legal theory? By what legal mechanism can non-payment of property tax result in removal of the owner from the land? I mean, it's a pretty drastic remedy.
Because
I describe it. Go ahead.
We've split the title. We've agreed to say the state has an ownership interest.
Right. Well, it might be the state. Typically, it'd be the school district, all these districts that you just named.
Okay.
It'll be a party named in the transaction itself that will have the interest adequate to accomplish the results that we see accomplished. I refer to property tax as rent. We don't pay the rent, we get kicked out.
Right.
Okay, it's not really rent, but it's close enough of an analogy that it starts the wheels in the mind going for people to say, yeah, that's a really good analogy. So how is it that we think we own the land, but we're paying rent on it? What gives? Well, the answer is it's all in the paperwork. There's only one legal theory that warrants removal of an owner for non-payment of something, and that's the law of trusts. I mean, here it is again, the same fundamental area of law. So who is the property owner, the fiduciary? Why? Because that's the responsible party. Beneficiaries aren't responsible. Beneficiaries are the ones for whom the duty is due, to whom the duty is due. So beneficiary says fiduciary is not paying, as agreed. And so what's the answer? You switch, sure you do. You shift out the fiduciary. You get a new one. The one's not performing, okay, you fire the fiduciary. And how do you do that? You remove them from the trust property.
You evict them.
Literally.
You foreclose on them.
Literally. You evict them for non-payment of what? Rent. It's not really rent, but the fiduciary, in the classic perspective, cannot use trust property for his own purpose. That's self-dealing. Fiduciary can't do that. Can't use trust property, not even with the beneficial consent. You really shouldn't do it. I say without beneficial consent, that's a gray area. Okay, so how does this mechanism function? The mechanism builds in a rent, and that's exactly what it is. The fiduciary is paying rent to the beneficiary, or plural, for use of what? Trust property. And that's the mechanism. And because it's owned in trust, the beneficiary can say, I think we've got a better use for this property. And that's where all this insane commercial eminent domain comes in.
Okay.
So it's just, once we get into the mindset that we've agreed to all these problems that are being visited upon us, then we go have a bad day about that, and then we say, is there anything we can do about it? Fundamentally, sure, but we've got to understand what the paperwork is and how it's worded and how land is actually owned from state to state, and the property descriptions, what's a legit property description? What does this property description really mean about applicable choice of law? There's several kinds of questions, and within the nature of the questions, several questions that apply to what is it really that we've got and how bad is it. Okay, well, what we've got's a problem, and how bad is it? Well, we look around us. It's being taken for purposes of the United Nations right out from under our noses. Okay, so that's the fundamental mechanism. That's the game that we're up against. Between you, me, and the fence post, and of course that's sort of tongue-in-cheek since we're on live radio, I really don't think the politicians get it. I know the people don't. One would think the politicians do. There are a few that I can point to in history, and I'm not going to name names because I really don't know for 100% certainty, but there are several in the past who've acted like they get it. There are several who get it. It's a vast minority of people in the Congress, either side, who actually understand the game. They're not there to understand the game. They're there to play the game for the benefit of the bank. That's my alternate label for the government. We don't really have a government. We've got a bank that provides governmental services. At least it pretends to. And so we have what the bank wants us to have. We fundamentally live in the mining town. The mining company owns the town, and off we go.
And the laundromat, and the houses, and everything. Absolutely.
This is our current environment. And it's not the mining company here, it's the bank. The bank owns it all. How's that? Well, either we sold it to them or we just flat out gave it to them.
Ooh. Here you go.
That's what setting up a trust does.
Stay tuned. 877-254-7524. Question, comment, phone lines are open. We'll be right back.
Years ahead of the dominant media, FirstAmendmentRadio.com and FirstAmendmentRadio.net. Gold and silver is tremendously undervalued. Global demand vastly exceeds mine supply by more than 60% annually. There is little in the financial world more certain than a coming explosion in the prices of gold and silver. The U.S. dollar continues to lose value and respect as the world's reserve currency. Our nation faces challenges on many fronts, and a day doesn't pass without another economist bringing forth warnings of impending economic calamity. There has never been a better time than right now to acquire physical gold and silver. Discount Gold and Silver Trading was founded on the principles of truth and honesty. We believe in providing a quality product, quality service, and most importantly, competitive pricing. We provide all forms of precious metals, including American gold, silver, platinum, and rare investment and circulated coins. Silver bars, rounds, and 90% silver bags are on hand for the silver investor. Gold self-directed IRAs are available. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free, that's 1-800-375-4188.
The program you are listening to is 100% sponsored by you, the listener, on this First Amendment Rights media channel. You've noticed that there are few commercials on this radio network, and there's a good reason for that. Corporate advertising dollars come with strings that limit program content. So without your help, these programs cannot continue on satellite, internet, or our various affiliates. These programs are not commercially viable and must be supported by those faithful to the cause of truth. Look for the button to sponsor your favorite programs on our listen and schedule pages. Then when you subscribe, we'll send you the last quarterly MP3 CD of that program immediately and continue with each new quarter. We will also give you unlimited archive access to all of our programs. We ask you to give much less than a tithe so that you may also send support directly to a particular program, host, or cause, and anywhere else the Spirit may lead you. Do all to the glory of our God and Creator, for His holy nation, the only kingdom that will last forever. Thank you for listening.
Years ahead of the dominant media, FirstAmendmentRadio.com and FirstAmendmentRadio.net.
Be at WTPVB@earthlink.net. Here's a Morgan Stanley presentation at Davos. Revenue headwinds from low rates and dangerous experiment of negative rates. We should move quickly to a cashless economy so that we can introduce negative rates well below 1%. Yes. Run from the bank, folks. Run from the bank. They're going to take your money any way, shape, or form they can get it. Well, it's not your money, is it?
Well, it's ours. It's just that it's not the medium of exchange that we think of it as. We don't think when we go buy groceries that we're getting the fruits and the veggies and the meats and the frozen and all of that in exchange for IOUs. We just don't think about it that way. I mean, even in Vegas, the chip is an asset. It's wood, it's painted this way, that way. They make it difficult to reproduce, just like they make money difficult to reproduce. Illegally, that's what I'm saying.
Right.
What am I trying to say? Forge?
Counterfeit.
Thank you. That's my term. They make it difficult to counterfeit. The point is that wooden plastic chip there is actually an asset. It's not I guess for the casino it's an IOU, but it isn't really. Because you trade assets for it, and actually some of them actually use silver in their slot machines. Kind of an interesting thought. Well, at any rate, the money system that we have right now is exactly the trading of IOUs. It's not like the paper represents oil in the ground or metal in the ground or minted metal. It's just a promise to pay. That's all it is. That's all that it is. It's a promissory note. And so it says right on there, this is a good legal tender. Okay, that has to be there because a legitimate system wouldn't accept it. There are two different labels that I use. One I use America, and the other I use United States. When this nation started, it was America, and in America, the currency was capital M money, honest weights and measures, gold and silver coin. The concept comes straight from the common law, the origin of which is
the Bible.
The Bible, Scripture, absolutely. So, to use honest weights and measures means to use fundamentally silver. Silver and money are interchangeable concepts in Scripture. Gold works. It's an honest system of weights and measures, absolutely. It wasn't the favored one in scriptural times. It works. It's just not the original. So, at any rate, when America was America, the medium of exchange, the currency was capital M money, gold and silver coin. That changed circa 1965 with the introduction of Federal Reserve notes and scrap metal tokens. With that change comes an upheaval in the foundational choice of law. And with the new money, we fundamentally get a different sovereign. We went from America to United States, going from fundamental sovereignty of the people to fundamental sovereignty of the bank. And so at the heart of this nation's problem is the choice of law that comes with the currency that we use.
And how? How do we turn this around?
The short answer is stop using that stuff.
Yes.
It's a lot easier said than done. I mean, in theory, it looks great. How do you do that? And the answer is it's not so simple. We're so far down the road that all of the basics on which we depend are paid for with the IOUs.
And it's not even just wanting to go cashless, okay? So that, well, the control then is total. Because if you're not in the system, if you don't have that iPhone or that system to be, or that chip.
Right, the debit or credit card thing. Yeah.
If you don't have that, you can't buy and sell.
You can't buy and sell in most places. I'll posit that the system will never go quite that far. There will always be an underground. Now, there may be a hunt for the underground, but there will always be that system that will trade under God's laws. Can't get rid of it, and they know it. Try as they may, that step will just simply never take place. So, but that's a different life. It's not the secure life. It's not the comfortable life. It's not the travel here and there, see the world, do all of what is marketed to be the fun stuff life. It's the life on the edge, the life in the underground, that sort of life. And it would be very different indeed.
Where the threat of the jackbooted thugs breaking down, or you won't have a door, maybe ripping off
curtain,
wrapping off the flap of your tent.
Yeah, well, and a thing to keep in mind down that road is that what you just described would be nothing but bluff, and they may do that a little bit. They can never compel us into their choice of law. They can make it extremely inconvenient. They can never compel us into their choice of law. To compel choice of law is to engage in an act of war. And they've avoided that. They've avoided the war by always printing silver.
Always print. Well, yeah, it's still there.
It's still there.
Your trading group. Yes. We'll be right back.
I pledge allegiance to the King of Kings, and to his kingdom come, on earth as it is in heaven. One holy nation, under our Heavenly Father, grace, mercy, justice for all.
The program you are listening to is 100% sponsored by you, the listener, on this First Amendment Rights media channel. You've noticed that there are few commercials on this radio network, and there's a good reason for that. Corporate advertising dollars come with strings that limit program content. So without your help, these programs cannot continue on satellite, internet, or our various affiliates. These programs are not commercially viable and must be supported by those faithful to the cause of truth. Look for the button to sponsor your favorite programs on our listen and schedule pages. Then when you subscribe, we'll send you the last quarterly MP3 CD of that program immediately and continue with each new quarter. We will also give you unlimited archive access to all of our programs. We ask you to give much less than a tithe so that you may also send support directly to a particular program, host, or cause, and anywhere else the Spirit may lead you. Do all to the glory of our God and Creator, for His holy nation, the only kingdom that will last forever. Thank you for listening.
The book of Revelation says, the spirit of prophecy is the testimony of Jesus Christ. This is at the very heart of FirstAmendmentRadio.com. In that spirit, we have created the Prophecy Reality News app for all of your mobile devices, streaming First Amendment Radio 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Available for your Apple, Android device, and smartphone, absolutely free. Get the Prophecy Reality News app installed today so you can listen to First Amendment Radio wherever you are. The Prophecy Reality News app. Get it now.
You're listening to FirstAmendmentRadio.com worldwide. Freedom is never free. We need your support today at FirstAmendmentRadio.com.
Back. Harmon Taylor, my guest. Question or comment, 877-254-7524. Phone lines are open. For, a former attorney that said, I'm not going to be in your church anymore, bar a Association. You can find out more. You can email Harmon at WTPVB@earthlink.net. We the posterity, voluntary bondage. And that's what we've done to ourselves. We volunteered into all of this. And, had an inkling of it all, but once you volunteer in, the beast really doesn't want you to volunteer back out, Harmon.
No, it's like telling Pharaoh, I'm going to go now. And what's Pharaoh going to do? He's going to laugh his butt off.
Yes.
It's not that we're not going to go. It's just that Pharaoh is not going to just say, okay, see ya.
Right. Because, well, who would make his bricks?
Correct. Who would make his bricks?
Who would run in the cage and the transmitter out there so the signal goes out to you? Yeah.
That's it.
Because, well, I don't know. But their system's falling apart, Harmon.
Well, it certainly seems to be. I'll be satisfied that it actually falls apart when the term dollar is actually defined. Right now we've got what I expect to be just a justification for changing out currency to go from national to regional. Like the euro, that's a regional currency. It's not just a national currency, but a multinational currency. And so when that happens, if that happens, and when the term dollar is still not defined as a weight measured in terms of grains of fine silver, then nothing about our current legal reality has changed, except maybe the provider of the fundamental choice of law. Right now it's the Federal Reserve System. Okay, it's masked through Congress, but what the bank wants, the bank gets. And so we have Obamacare and eminent domain to build football stadiums and this sort of thing. Okay, when we get a different currency,
when did we undefine the dollar?
Okay, that had to happen before or about the time of 1965. And at the national level, I think it's Title 31. We can go back and check this. 5103. We can go back and check. The term dollar used to be defined as a weight measured in grains of fine silver. And what it says right now, and this isn't anything that ever made the news, because who owns the news outlets? The bank.
Yes.
It's the bank's city. It's the bank's community, like the mining community. It's the bank's community, so all we get is what the bank wants us to know. Okay. When the transition was in place, the dollar went from being defined in terms of silver to being defined this way. A dollar is 100 cents. So then we look up what is a cent. Okay, a cent is 1/100th of a dollar. That's very circular. It's not a definition of anything. It's just an undefinition. That's at the national level. The state level, which is the other marketplace they had to address, they brought in the UCC. And that wasn't really in place until 72, but they didn't define dollar. They defined money.
Money. As a dollar.
As a Federal Reserve note.
Ah, a fraudulent reserve note. Yes. Stay tuned. We'll be right back after the top of the hour news break.
The program you are listening to is 100% sponsored by you, the listener, on this First Amendment Rights Media channel. You will notice that there are few commercials on this radio network. There's a good reason for that. Corporate advertising dollars come with strings that limit program content. So without your help, these programs cannot continue on internet or our several affiliates. If you benefit by the educational law programs, we ask you to give. If you are admonished or nurtured by the Bible and ministry programs, we ask you to give. If some voice a cause that you are passionate about, we ask you to give. If you believe in any of these, we ask you to support them as you would a missionary on a continual basis. as if giving a tithe for missionary radio. These programs are not commercially viable and must be supported by those faithful to the cause of truth. Look for the button to sponsor your favorite programs at our listen and schedule pages on the internet. Then, when you subscribe, we will send you the last quarterly MP3 CD of that program immediately, and continue to do so with each new quarter. We will also give you unlimited archive access to all of our programs. We're asking you to give much less than a tithe, so that you may also send support directly to a particular program host, cause, and anywhere else the Spirit may lead you. Do all to the glory of our God and Creator, for His holy nation, the only kingdom that will last forever. Thank you for listening.
Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. That's crosstheborder.org.
I know you all want answers, and believe me, so do I, and I'll do my best to get them.
Despite Nicolas Cage's promise to do his best to get left behind rapture answers for us, don't hold your breath. Not everyone believes Left Behind is true prophecy. Some may even regard as conspiratorial the mainstream re-release of the Left Behind movie with actor Nicolas Cage portraying the main character as an attempt to further reinforce in the minds of all this perception of false prophecy in order to condition the masses for the play about to begin. If you want true Bible prophecy answers, get the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. The author exposes the Latin rapture origin, the 7-year tribulation deception, true Bible revelation of Daniel's 70 weeks, the abomination of desolation, the restrainer, America in the Revelation, the image of the beast and the mark of the beast, and the truth about God's chosen people, and so much more about Bible prophecy. This book will shatter the Left Behind paradigm of future events. Get the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. That's crosstheborder.org.
And we're back with the second hour to Free America here on the American Freedom Network. We need your help, folks. Simple as that. Need your help. Pay the light bill, the phone bill. Feed the squirrel out there and running in the cage and the transmitter so the signal goes out to you. He went on strike and he put super glue in the lock on the door, and, well, the transmitter went down because he was on strike. We need better squirrel food. We need, we got happy hens. We need happy squirrels. So call Michael or Cody, 800-205-6245. 800-205-6245. You can make a pledge on your plastic. You can order a copy of today's show or past shows we've done. Other shows here on the network, that helps us out. You can pick up that envelope and address it to KHNC, P.O. Box 1750. P.O. Box 1750, Johnstown, Colorado, Federal Occupation Zone 80534. Your check, your money order, much appreciated. We'll even still take the fraudulent reserve notes, much to the chagrin of my guest. And I agree. Other currencies, sure, they're all fraudulent anyway. But you could throw in some just weights and measures, the Lord's money. At the very least, tell your friends and family. Tune in 1360 a.m. on the internet at America News Net, AmericaNewsNet.com, and call the advertisers, folks. Let them know you're out there, you're listening, you appreciate their support of American Freedom Network. My guest today, Harmon Taylor, former attorney down there in Dallas, Texas. You can email Harmon at WTPVB, We the Posterity, Voluntary Bondage, WTPVB at earthlink.net. We've got a caller, Harmon. Who we got?
Oh, this is Paul from Wisconsin.
Hey, there's Paul from Wisconsin.
And I have a question for Mr. Taylor, what his opinion would be on the latest food threat assessment being issued by the Federal Death Administration, known as the Food Safety Modernization Act. Are you at all familiar with that?
I know that it exists. I can't profess having studied it in great detail yet. There's some details you'd like to share with us?
Yes, and I kind of like your opinion on a phrase that appears in there.
Okay.
One of the provisions is that you can grow and process and consume food at your location, which of course would mean that making potato salad and taking it to a picnic would violate the act. I would also give them, if they had, and here's this magical phrase that appears in there, if they have reason to believe that you are transporting this adulterated food, they can stop and seize your vehicle and everything there is that you have, all your produce, your food, and immediately, just by having reason to believe that there's a problem or a safety issue. In other words, they don't have to provide due process anymore.
Okay, I understand the semantics of what you've raised there, and we've got fundamentally a couple of different issues, and there may be some listeners that are alert to some of the semantics raised there in what you mentioned, and we'll get both of those if we've got time. We'll try to look down both of those paths. The two different areas that come to mind in what you're talking about, one of them has to do with the food thing, and the other has to do with the transportation thing. So let's do the food thing first, because we've talked transportation some in the past. The concept that you raised there, have reason to believe. I'm going to suggest to you that that's a probable cause requirement. What kind of punishment? Is it just a monetary thing? Can you lose your liberty for it? Have we read?
Well, it's a seizure of the property.
They're going to take the property.
Yeah, they could come in and at that point, if they had reason to believe that any food item is adulterated, and that would be anything consumed by animals or by humans, they can seize all of it.
Okay.
Without a warrant.
Well, that sounds maritime enough to suggest plainly that the threshold about where any of that stuff can apply is the place called the state in a recent Obamacare case, King v. Burwell. The exchanges were set up, and there were states saying, well, we don't have to play that game because we didn't set up an exchange. And the Supreme Court said, yeah, there is a state exchange, and it's one in D.C. So in other words, they defined the state, capital S state, as United States. Okay, what does that mean? That means that there is a place where that language that you're talking about, we can call it legislation. It isn't really. We can call it that to keep the complications to a minimum. There's a place where that legislation is enforceable. And it's an unfair question, so I'm not going to ask you. It's an unfair question to identify that place. But, of course, that place is the place called the state. It's the place in the state codes called this state. I've referred to it as a hover zone, the second floor, things like that. And geographically, it'll look exactly like where you are in Wisconsin. It'll look exactly like it. But you're really not in the, you've got two different places in Wisconsin, same like you got two different places in Colorado, same as you've got two different places in Texas. The two different places there, well, how do we know which one we're in? They sure look the same. How can you say that if we're looking at one map that we're in two different places? Okay, we look at what we're carrying around in our pocketbook. We look at what we're carrying around in our purse or our clutch or our money clip. And there's the break.
Stay with us, Paul. We'll be right back after the break here on the American Freedom Network.
You're listening to FirstAmendmentRadio.com worldwide. Freedom is never free. We need your support today at FirstAmendmentRadio.com.
The program you are listening to is 100% sponsored by you, the listener, on this First Amendment Rights Media channel. You will notice that there are few commercials on this radio network. There's a good reason for that. Corporate advertising dollars come with strings that limit program content. So without your help, these programs cannot continue on internet or our several affiliates. If you benefit by the educational law programs, we ask you to give. If you are admonished or nurtured by the Bible and ministry programs, we ask you to give. If some voice a cause that you are passionate about, we ask you to give. If you believe in any of these, we ask you to support them as you would a missionary on a continual basis, as if giving a tithe for missionary radio. These programs are not commercially viable and must be supported by those faithful to the cause of truth. Look for the button to sponsor your favorite programs at our listen and schedule pages on the internet. Then, when you subscribe, we will send you the last quarterly MP3 CD of that program immediately, and continue to do so with each new quarter. We will also give you unlimited archive access to all of our programs. We're asking you to give much less than a tithe, so that you may also send support directly to a particular program host, cause, and anywhere else the Spirit may lead you. Do all to the glory of our God and Creator, for His holy nation, the only kingdom that will last forever. Thank you for listening.
You're listening to FirstAmendmentRadio.com worldwide. Freedom is never free. We need your support today at FirstAmendmentRadio.com.
I follow that. There may be others listening that don't. It's more of a state of mind. It's a fiction. They created a fiction.
It's a fiction until you show up in court. And the difference is, as I was mentioning, it's what we carry around in our wallets. We're in the place where they can enforce that language if they can make a connection to the use circulation somehow of funny money, the Federal Reserve note system. If there is no connection there, then they're going to have a problem. And it's an element that never be spoken of, but we have to know enough about where their starting jurisdictional presumptions are, so as to be able to press them on it if they ever really get to the idea of saying that grandma's potato salad at the family reunion is a bad thing. And I don't know that that's where that's headed, but it's a good scenario for the hypothetical in order to understand what we're dealing with.
In the wording of the text under the exclusion rule, well, you can do all this at home, but you can't take it outside of here unless you meet our requirements.
Okay.
And they can stop and seize any vehicle on a highway under presumption that it's transporting adulterated food. They even went so far as to claim that this would be piracy if you did it without their auspices. And then under piracy, they could seize everything you had.
And well, it's not piracy. It's going to be a violation of transportation regulations. And I'm holding off getting into those because we've talked about that a number of times on Randy's program.
Well, we can do a highlight of it, but how they're tying, well, even the bank, the bank is now tied to transportation, because if you don't have the ID license, you can't cash a check.
Well, and that's a very direct connection there. I mean, why do you need a license for transportation things to cash a check?
Yeah.
And the answer, we just spin our head around and say, well, so what? And the answer is there's absolutely no legal connection whatsoever. But it is necessary for the banking system that the transportation enforcement mechanism work, because the transportation enforcement mechanism, like the income tax, a hole in the bottom of the drain in the bottom of the money supply tub that allows them to regulate the money supply. We got another call to get?
No, we'll continue on here.
Okay. So what we're talking about here, and it is the commercial mechanism is directly supplied by the transportation angle. It's directly supplied by it. How does that work? Okay, if we're in transportation, that means we're removing someone or something. In this case, it would be something. The food would be the cargo. We're removing cargo from one place to another for hire. We're being paid to do it. And that payment is in funny money. I'm just going to mention this. I'm not going to try to argue it or explain it. I'll just tell you that if we're taking people or things from one place to another for hire and we're getting paid in silver, we're outside this state. That's not transportation. Why? Because transportation depends on being paid with the funny money. It's just definitional, and when we get into the semantics, all this stuff just sort of lays out right there, just a line of dominoes that just fall in order. If the semantics are still a problem in the mind, then we've got a little bit more semantics study to do. But at the end of the day, what was the point? The point was, and is, they've got to have a tie to the money. So what they've done is put it in a transportation context. And if we accept their theory that we're in transportation, then that's a problem. And that is the connection with the money system right there. Being paid to take that food from one place to another. So it is very important that they're putting it in the context of transportation. When we understand transportation, we understand that this food thing also just falls by the wayside. So where did we start? We started with a jurisdictional theory. We started with a jurisdictional perspective. What's the jurisdictional perspective? There's got to be a connection with the use of the funny money at the threshold. Okay, so we could say, well, I'm going to the family reunion. I'm not being paid to take this from one place to another. Now, that'd be pretty good to say. It'd be pretty good to understand how to take that all the way through the system. Okay, if they get us with the semantics of transportation, vehicle, motor vehicle, driving, operating, transportation, if we concede on any of those semantics, then nothing else that we're going to say is ever going to matter, because they've got everything they need. We're in transportation, and therefore they've got the commercial mechanism, and the rest of it just falls by the wayside because they've defined it to be that way. If it's a game they're defining, then it's a game we lose if we play at all. There's that movie, I've probably mentioned it several times, War Games. It's the computer.
Yeah.
The only winning move is not to play. Okay, that's where we've got to get in our own mind. So how do we not play? Well, we've got to know that the use of the funny money is at the heart of everything about this current system. Title 18 depends on the use of the money. And we won't go through the Terre Haute litigation again about how I had that lesson taught so directly. But Title 18 depends on the use of the money, and if that's consented to at any point, then that's that. Special territorial and maritime jurisdiction, Section 7. What does that mean? That means if there's the use of the funny money, then Title 18 may apply. And so we're not in Title 18. Do you happen to remember where this food thing is codified?
Oh, it hasn't been yet. This is, I don't remember where it's codified, but they're in the process.
Title 21, Title 22?
Will be under the FDA's jurisdiction, and these are the provisions they're writing out in administrative code. Little laws.
Yeah, the administrative stuff, let's deal with that. How does a regulation apply at all? I mean, conceptually. What is the mechanism by which language promulgated by an agency becomes enforceable at all? And the answer is it has to be agreed to commercially. There's nothing else that can apply. There's no other mechanism. They're not the Congress. They're not even pretending to make law, and it's not law. It's a regulation. It's a rule. How does that stuff apply? There's only one way it can apply, and that's if it has been agreed to commercially.
That you went and sought their license.
That's a way. If we can have a license and not use it, but it doesn't help to have the license on a lot of things. The existence of the license in no way compels someone to use it. They can't compel us into business. They can't compel us to use anything to be in business at any time for any reason for anybody.
Okay, well, that brings up another issue of another provision of this Food Safety Modernization Act that as of supposedly November 1st, those seeking an exemption for sales of produce, of fruits and vegetables for under $25,000 a year, you have to supposedly apply for the exemption and provide to them what your income is. And again, by sending them that, you're claiming, according to what you're saying, well, here's the dollars I made, the Federal Reserve notes, and then they're going to claim, oh, look, you made this money, you're in commerce, so now we got you.
Yeah. Where you're headed is very self-consistent with the whole of the scenario. If they're actually asking for the thing of income, then that'll bring in the IRS immediately because the only people who have income are taxpayers. How do you become a taxpayer? 100% voluntarily. 99.9% of the people in that issue have no idea that they volunteered or how, but they get clobbered because they volunteered.
Okay, well, then the other issue would be, being who I'm affiliated with, I grow this stuff and I take it someplace and I sell it.
Okay.
Well, that's not commerce, that's production.
The growing of it is definitely production. Getting it to the marketplace is not transportation. And if we're in is this taking us to the farmer market scenario?
Yeah, this is what we're looking at, because these rules reach way down into that realm of, right down into the local kids selling a few tomatoes on a picnic table outside the house,
Yeah, okay. Let's talk about farmers market for a little while, because we've got a complete and very simple solution there. I say it's complete and it's simple. It's complete and it's simple when we've got the whole picture in mind. To me, it's complete and simple, and I hope to be able to describe it that way. If they want to regulate farmers market, and the farmers market participants are saying, we like it when you're not here, and we're just fine without you, and so have a nice day. If that's the perspective, then there's a real simple solution. Okay, what is the mechanism that triggers the authority? We went through that, and it didn't occur that we need to talk about that for farmers market, but it's the same concept. How does Title 18 apply? Use of the funny money. But it doesn't really have to be use of it, just something that affects the use of the funny money. Okay, the Commerce Clause affects commerce. Okay. So what does that mean? In the practical terms, what happens in farmers markets right now is the trading with what as the medium of exchange?
Oh, the Federal Reserve notes.
Right, with the denomination of dollars as the unit of account. Okay, so those people who trade with dollars in that circumstance are fundamentally asking to be regulated. So do you know where my other shoe is going to drop here? Do you know what the other shoe is I'm going to drop?
No.
Okay.
Well, we need another booth there at the very entrance of the.
There you go. Okay, keep going. You know what it is.
And in this booth, the the buyers come in and they take their funny fraudulent reserve notes or they're plastic, and they magically change it to real quarters and dimes and ounces of silver. And then
does that make sense to you? Do you understand what he's telling you?
Yeah, I know.
Exactly what has to happen. If we don't want to deal with these federal games anymore, we're going to have to stop playing in their field. We're going to have to get out of the all-caps Wisconsin, where we have nothing but funny money as the medium exchange, and go to upper-lower Wisconsin, where what circulates is honest weights and measures. We leave their jurisdiction when we leave their money at home.
That'd be a tough sell, wouldn't it, Paul?
Well, I've understood that for some time about silver and the money issue, but trying to convince other people.
It's tough.
And now it's evolved into the next section. I as a participant in the farmers market, I see other vendors where they've got their phones there with an attachment on the bottom, and they just stick the credit card.
You want to stay with us, Paul?
Sure.
We'll be right back. Stay tuned here on the American Freedom Network.
Years ahead of the dominant media, FirstAmendmentRadio.com and FirstAmendmentRadio.net.
I know you all want answers, and believe me, so do I, and I'll do my best to get them.
Have you seen the Left Behind movies? Have you read the Left Behind fictional book series? Not everyone believes Left Behind is true prophecy. Some may even regard as conspiratorial the mainstream re-release of the Left Behind movie with actor Nicolas Cage portraying the main character as an attempt to further reinforce in the minds of all this perception of false prophecy in order to condition the masses for the play about to begin. Because they see the world stage shaping to fulfill what they have been led to believe is sound biblical interpretation, a left behind rapture scenario. This false view of prophecy is reinforced in the mind, not only of its adherents, but also includes those who have been merely exposed to the specific media. Is it possible that false prophecy can be fulfilled? The rapture theories have always been in dispute. Pre-trib, mid-trib, and post-trib disputes have risen up in exclusively evangelical circles of recent history, so that when true believers don't suddenly disappear, this element will easily go by the wayside when all see a new Jewish temple begin to be built. Will this be part of the great delusion that will come upon the whole earth? It seems that this great prophetic delusion has already overcome practically the entire American evangelical and Christian world. Get the book,
the rapture will be canceled. To learn more, visit crosstheborder.org. That's CROSS, crosstheborder.org.
Gold and silver is tremendously undervalued. Global demand vastly exceeds mine supply by more than 60% annually. There is little in the financial world more certain than a coming explosion in the prices of gold and silver. The U.S. dollar continues to lose value and respect as the world's reserve currency. Our nation faces challenges on many fronts, and a day doesn't pass without another economist bringing forth warnings of impending economic calamity. There has never been a better time than right now to acquire physical gold and silver. Discount Gold and Silver Trading was founded on the principles of truth and honesty. We believe in providing a quality product, quality service, and most importantly, competitive pricing. We provide all forms of precious metals, including American gold, silver, platinum, and rare investment and circulated coins. Silver bars, rounds, and 90% silver bags are on hand for the silver investor. Gold self-directed IRAs are available. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free, that's 1-800-375-4188.
You're listening to FirstAmendmentRadio.com worldwide. Freedom is never free. We need your support today at FirstAmendmentRadio.com.
WTPVB at Earthlink.net. First letters of his first book, We the Posterity, Voluntary Bondage. WTPVB at Earthlink.net. We also have Paul from Wisconsin online talking about the farmers market and how this, overarching Food Modernization Act, and that was all passed, Paul, to, bring us into compliance on an international scale, right?
Yes. Well, you have two. You had one faction. It was put in to benefit the corporatists, for big food, because they began to view locally produced material, which people have come back to want because of the safety issues. They deemed that as a threat. And they were big players in passing the legislation.
Because, it's, you see it all over PBS, farm to consumer, farm to table, all this going on about trying to, have an honest food supply.
Well, and how do you do that? One of the phrases that they like to put forward is, as consumers, we have a right to know where our food comes from. Well, it's not your food till you pay for it, and if you're using Federal Reserve notes, all you've done is tender debt. I'm still entitled to payment.
Yes.
You haven't actually paid me yet. You cheated me with those ferns.
And that's how big ag likes it.
Oh, absolutely, because then that's why there's we're at 36% of parity, because then we can consolidate the production facilities like we have so often in the corporate world.
Yeah, and so you're talking about the motivation to get the changeover in mind is to changing the medium of exchange. And I will tell you that the small to medium producers cannot afford to continue to show up at farmers market and have all their stuff confiscated.
They would confiscate it and then suspend you from any operations for up to 30 to 60 days. You can appeal the way it's written. You can't talk to anybody about it except your attorney.
Yes, they built in a gag order?
Yes, they built a gag order in.
Isn't that something? Well, if you agree to it, you've agreed to it.
Well, I didn't know food was such a threat to national security.
It's not a threat to national security. It's just a threat to big ag. So, the thing is, it won't take very many times for the small farmer, the medium-sized farmer, to participate, medium-sized producer, to participate in the farmer's market and have everything seized. But if there's ever a motivation to understand the difference in the money systems, that would be it. And
but they will just cow down and go get the license.
Well, they may. They may. And this system, this beast system, is going to do one of two things. It's literally the choose ye this day problem every single time, every single day, every single one of these programs. The beast is compelling us back into God's way of doing things because it's the only way to get outside the beast. We have to go back to God's honest system, weights, and measures because that's the area that the beast won't regulate. Can't. That's God's area. That's where self-disciplined people find themselves, and it's the self-disciplined people that get the blessings of self-government. So if they go the way of the beast, who can help them? It's the concept of, oh, well, nobody's going to show up with silver, and so we have to do it this way. Oh, no, you don't. Just bring your silver with you. Have one transaction, set up the booth like Randy was talking about. Have a station there, or two or three. I can't imagine that the coin dealers in the area would be terribly upset to have farmers market business every week or every month, however, in the community, various communities do different times. I can't believe they'd be terribly upset to have fairly regular business. Now, the farmers market, they're licensed. The money changers are licensed, but that's because they intend to make a profit on it. And I'll just suggest this, and if one needs further counsel, get it. But the money changers that don't intend to profit, in other words, they just watch spot value and trade at spot, they're not trying to make a profit, okay? So they're not in the business, so they don't need to be licensed, okay? And so if there's we'll just call them a money changer, if there's a money changer there, and the funny money is traded into silver, and silver is what's used in the farmer's market, and the participants there are confident in the foundational concepts, which we really should go into in some more depth than we're just covering the tops of here. But if they're confident in what they're doing, then when the feds show up and when the feds steal their food, they stole raisins. Where was that? California? There's a recent case out of the last Supreme Court session.
Yeah.
Oh,
you read that case.
Yeah, last spring. The
Horn, H-O-R-N-E, was that the raisin case?
Yes.
Okay. FDA wanted to steal the raisins. Supreme Court said the communist USDA cannot, they didn't say communist, those are my words. The Supreme Court said you can't steal the raisins. I'm paraphrasing. Now, my rendition of that is the communists cannot steal the raisins. The communists cannot compel these people to give away their raisins to participate in raisin growing. That's fundamentally what the Supreme said there. You were stealing their raisins. Cut it out.
Yeah, and that program had been in place since 1945.
It has been, and I'll tell you, bless their hearts, the Ninth Circuit was saying, they're scratching their heads saying, what is your problem? Do you not realize that you've agreed to this? And there are 4 votes out of the Supremes that were 100% lockstep in that perspective. They don't say it this way, but when we understand what the game is that we're playing, then it just jumps off the page at us, and the dissenting ruling of the Supremes, 4 voices are saying, what's your problem? You agreed to this. They don't say it in those terms, but that is at the heart of their position. It's at the heart of the Ninth Circuit's position. And the majority ruling in the Supreme Court said, yeah, but you can't be compelled to agree to that.
An unconscionable agreement.
Yeah, fundamentally. We're not going to allow that policy.
Well, but that transfers over to tomatoes and potatoes and raisins. Yes.
Yeah.
Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
I pledge allegiance to the King of Kings, and to his kingdom come, on earth as it is in heaven. One holy nation, under Heavenly Father, grace, mercy, justice for all.
The program you are listening to is 100% sponsored by you, the listener, on this First Amendment Rights media channel. You've noticed that there are few commercials on this radio network, and there's a good reason for that. Corporate advertising dollars come with strings that limit program content. So without your help, these programs cannot continue on satellite, internet, or our various affiliates. These programs are not commercially viable and must be supported by those faithful to the cause of truth. Look for the button to sponsor your favorite programs on our listen and schedule pages. Then when you subscribe, we'll send you the last quarterly MP3 CD of that program immediately and continue with each new quarter. We will also give you unlimited archive access to all of our programs. We ask you to give much less than a tithe so that you may also send support directly to a particular program, host, or cause, and anywhere else the Spirit may lead you. Do all to the glory of our God and Creator, for His holy nation, the only kingdom that will last forever. Thank you for listening.
The book of Revelation says, the spirit of prophecy is the testimony of Jesus Christ. This is at the very heart of FirstAmendmentRadio.com. In that spirit, we have created the Prophecy Reality News app for all of your mobile devices, streaming First Amendment Radio 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Available for your Apple, Android device, and smartphone absolutely free. Get the Prophecy Reality News app installed today so you can listen to First Amendment Radio wherever you are. The Prophecy Reality News app. Get it now.
Years ahead of the dominant media, FirstAmendmentRadio.com and FirstAmendmentRadio.net.
And we're back. Harmon Taylor, my guest, and we've got Paul Griepentrog from there in Wisconsin online, Vice President of NORM, National Organization for Raw Materials, and discussing the Food Modernization Act and, well, how to stay out of the clutches of the beast. So, you guys there in Wisconsin, Paul, you're getting ready to, formulating plans and everything else for the farmers market coming up here this year, and you raise prize-winning produce out there. What are your thoughts of staying out of the clutches of the beast on this thing?
Well, I don't. I'm certainly open to entertain what Harmon had to say. That might be a little difficult to get the consumers to go along with. I also, if you're familiar with the case, Supreme Court case in United Railroad versus the U.S. DOT, where they ruled, hey, these agencies that make rules from unelected boards and then enforce their own rules find no comfortable place within the Constitution. Might be because at some point somebody's going to face this situation where they're going to come after them. They usually like to pick on the weakest link. They like to go in this state. They like to pick on the Amish and the Mennonites in hopes that they will be passive. Interestingly enough, sometimes their faith sustains them in ways that are surprising. Some of the Amish sects believe that to hire an attorney is an act of violence, and they won't even do so. But ultimately, it's about food control, and when you control the food, you control the people.
Yes.
And food is becoming an issue as the international shipping winds down and other places. The economy's slowing down. What is it going to come to as the crash evolves? Are we going to be able to help our neighbors out by handing a tomato over the fence, or is that going to become, an offense of some type?
So, Harmon.
It sounds like they're trying very diligently to make that an offense of some sort. And the thing to do there is invite your neighbor over. Let them eat your tomato at your place.
Yeah, I guess that'd be one way around it, but
the fundamental thing there, it sounds to me, and I haven't read it, I probably should, it sounds like what they've tried to corner is getting food to a farmer's market, the transaction of the food at the farmer's market.
Any movement or production of food. They have all kinds of rules regarding the production of food. They've got a couple categories for exemptions. If you're really small, then you can apply for the one exemption. If you make up to $1 million, well, then you can apply for the secondary exemption. But it's all about recalls and other problems. I've been in this business for 38 years and never had anybody get sick on what I grew. But if I've got to spend all my time doing paperwork instead of attending to my crop,
right?
Well, and I in my mind, well, if you're going to make me do this paperwork, send me a check. That's the takings of my time.
Yeah, they'll.
You ain't got the best credit rating, so I might need to get paid in gold and silver for that.
Yeah, it'd be nice to turn the tables on them. It sure would. Yeah, to buy into that program at all is to make the system, sounds like USDA, FDA, somewhere in there, the beneficiary. And the party getting the license becomes the fiduciary to that system. And that system will hold the fiduciary's feet to the fire to the standard that fiduciaries are accustomed to being held their feet to the fire.
Well, you have to apply for the exemption, but my understanding always was that he who claims must prove. So why do I got to prove I'm exempt? I think they should be on their burden. And most producers aren't aware any of this is in place.
Well, it's good to raise the issue.
No, because this isn't
to get awareness for that. And
the farmer's market, if you're transporting hay down the road, they could say, "Oh, that bale's moldy. We think that's going to make the cows sick. Now we're going to seize your hay." The same scenario.
Huge semantic term there of transport. Is the party...
They can seize anything that's food that's consumed by animals or humans if they have reason to believe it's adulterated in some way.
Okay, well,
whether it's in transport, whether it's in production, whether it's in storage.
Okay, well, I'm satisfied that between you and me personally, we've got quite the study of semantics to go through, because the terms you're using just trigger off all of the defenses in my mind, and the defenses aren't quite firmly in most people's minds, I just imagine. And it's a study. It's a study. They can't take anything unless it's in transportation. Transportation is a term of semantics. And it may be a new discussion to you, but transportation means removing people and or property from one place to another for hire.
Right. If I have my produce in my truck, I'm going to the farmer's market, I'm not transporting for hire.
Correct. You're not transporting because you're not being paid to do it. It's not transporting for hire. You're not transporting at all. The definition of transportation...
your stuff.
Yeah,
right.
not being paid by someone else to get it from one place to another. You're just getting it there. So if the farmer or the rancher understands what transportation is, then to and from the marketplace, you've got the defense. You're not in transportation. It doesn't mean you're not going to lose a crop here and there. It doesn't mean they're not going to violate you criminally. It just means that if we understand how to defend ourselves, first we have to be successful in the defense. And when we're successful in the defense, we turn right around and sue the bastards into oblivion. That's easy.
Okay,
What's
so
not
here's
easy,
here's the farmer's market. Paul has his stand there. He has two signs. Potatoes, bushel potatoes for 5 ounces of silver, a bushel. I'll finish this after the break.
Hear it first on FirstAmendmentRadio.com and FirstAmendmentRadio.net. Since the beginning of time, kings have sought it, nations have fought for it. It has been traded, it has been borrowed, it has been purchased, it has been stolen. There's a reason for it. To secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and to our posterity, invest with the security of gold and silver. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188 or visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net. Listen to Financial Survival with your host Melody Cedarstrom right here on FirstAmendmentRadio.com at 4 p.m. Eastern or 1 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net or call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free 1-800-375-4188. If you'd like to get a copy of this program, you may subscribe at FirstAmendmentRadio.com for only $45 a month, and you'll receive an MP3 CD weekly of all of our programs. As a bonus, we'll send you a password for our audio archives online. That's a $15 value. Or you may request any month of any program on one MP3 CD for a minimum donation of only $25, or any single program on tape, MP3 CD, or CD for only $15. You may do all of this online at FirstAmendmentRadio.com. Just follow the instructions to make a donation or subscribe. You may also adopt an hour of your favorite program. Please don't forget that most of the programs on FirstAmendmentRadio.com are listener-supported. Don't do internet? Then call 559-781-3773 and we'll be honored to help you. Thank you from all of us here at FirstAmendmentRadio.com.
You're listening to FirstAmendmentRadio.com worldwide. Freedom is never free. We need your support today at FirstAmendmentRadio.com.
At WP or WTPVB, We the Posterity Voluntary Bondage, WTPVB at earthlink.net. So, Paul's got his booth set up at the farmer's market. Bushel of potatoes, 1 ounce of fine silver. And so the customer doesn't have fine silver, and Paul says, well, step right over here. I will give you 1 ounce of silver for whatever it is, 15 fraudulent reserve notes.
There you go.
Can he do it in the same booth and still be at arm's length from the beast?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, the thing about the is the thought about the profit, Profit part of it. Those who intend to do that as a business need to be licensed, and there's no way around that. Why? Because part of the transaction is with funny money. There's just no way around it. The only way around it is to say that's not my business. I'm not in business. I'm not making a living with this. It's at spot. There's no intent to do anything except a fair and equal exchange from one medium of exchange to another. And with that perspective, that ought to fly. That ought to fly just fine. So you trade the funny money into silver at spot price, and then trade the silver for the produce.
But he couldn't put up two signs that says a bushel of potatoes for 15 or for 1 ounce of silver. If you don't have the silver, I'll take 15 fraudulent reserve notes.
That's a problem. You just traded for funny money.
Ah.
And that's where the regulatory authority will apply.
What a mess we've got ourselves into.
It's a mess, and it's in some sense pretty simple to fix. We've got to stop using the bank's money. When we use the bank's money, we get all these other things shoved down our throats. And it's because we use the money, ultimately it's because we use the money, that this system has the authority that it has. So when we understand that everything about it is agreement-based and we stop agreeing, that's a huge step. But we're going to be presumed still to agree because we're still using the bank's medium of exchange. So it's academically, intellectually, theoretically, the solution's real simple. Getting out of the addiction to the funny money is very difficult. And the only way that's going to happen as a practical matter is to take the funny money to silver exchange system wherever you go and just have silver there and just be real sure they're two totally separate transactions. Funny money for silver and then silver for produce. And I don't even think we want to call it produce. That's their semantics. So we'll call it whatever they don't call it. If they call it produce, we may want to call it fruits and vegetables. Well, we're here to get your produce. Well, that's not produce.
And we've run out of time.
I'm going to sign off.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks for calling. Harmon, thanks for taking time to be with us today.
Oh, I appreciate it. Enjoyed it as always.
And remember, folks, the question is not, do you know the Lord Jesus Christ? The question is, does he know you?
The book of Revelation says, the spirit of prophecy is the testimony of Jesus Christ. This is at the very heart of FirstAmendmentRadio.com. In that spirit, we have created the Prophecy Reality News app for all of your mobile devices, streaming First Amendment Radio 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Available for your Apple, Android device, and smartphone, absolutely free. Get the Prophecy Reality News app installed today, so you can listen to First Amendment Radio wherever you are. The Prophecy Reality News app. Get it now. Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. That's crosstheborder.org.
I know you all want answers, and believe me, so do I, and I'll do my best to get them.
Despite Nicolas Cage's promise to do his best to get left behind rapture answers for us, don't hold your breath. Not everyone believes Left Behind is true prophecy. Some may even regard as conspiratorial the mainstream re-release of the Left Behind movie with actor Nicolas Cage portraying the main character as an attempt to further reinforce in the minds of all this perception of false prophecy in order to condition the masses for the play about to begin. If you want true Bible prophecy answers, get the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. The author exposes the Latin rapture origin, the 7-year tribulation deception, true Bible revelation of Daniel's 70 weeks, the abomination of desolation, the restrainer, America in the Revelation, the image of the beast and the mark of the beast, and the truth about God's chosen people, and so much more about Bible prophecy. This book will shatter the Left Behind paradigm of future events. Get the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. That's crosstheborder.org.